there as well, so you can test yourself. So I'm excited to talk about this. It's one of my favorite subjects. We're focusing on Rib Mountain here, but you've got to put that within the context of Marathon County, and it's one of the most interesting geological areas in the country, not just in Wisconsin. And I think we're going to cover a few topics that you covered in your geology section. Is that right? You just finished a geology unit. You're just finishing off a geology unit. So what kind of topics have you been talking about in this unit? Fossils? Okay, so we will see some signs, not fossils, but we'll see some signs of ancient life here in Marathon County, going back hundreds of millions of years. But most of the history of the county, the geological history, is in the even deeper past. So there won't be any fossils here, but there will be lots of evidence of action in the environment. So fossils. What else did you study? Yes? Thank you. Okay. Well, there's no volcanoes in Marathon County, is there? Well, there were in the past, and we're going to look at volcanoes and volcanic action here. And what else did you study, maybe in connection with volcanoes? What? Did you study plate tectonics? Yeah. Continental drift? Well, we're going to see evidence of that also in Marathon County as well. And how are we going to see this? Well, because the rocks tell a story. The rocks have an origin, and if we understand that origin, they're going to tell us what happened in the past here in Marathon County. So you studied mountains, so one of the places we're going to start is with a mountain, which is Rib Mountain. And we're going to talk about what kind of a mountain Rib Mountain is. So how many of you have skied on Rib Mountain? Skied, snowboarded? Same thing, different, but yeah. So you can see here, obviously you can see the ski runs. And then there's also a quarry on Rib Mountain as well, which is no longer active, but at one time they quarried the stone there. What kind of rock is Rib Mountain made of? Quartz, or quartzite. So the quartzite is itself made of the mineral quartz. You studied the mineral quartz and minerals, right? What is it, sort of a glassy mineral? It's tough, right? Were you able to scratch it? No, it's pretty high on Mohs scale of hardness. And it's also chemically a very tough rock as well. So it's one of the reasons that Rib Mountain stands high, is because of the rock type that it's made of. It's called Rib Mountain because it's kind of in the shape of a rib, all right, but 3 miles long. You can tell this is an old photograph because there's not too many ski runs on it at this particular time. So what's in the name? Is it a mountain, do you think?
Yeah.
It's not a mountain. Yes, it is. Well, this is a map from 1899. What does it say?
Rib Hill.
Rib Hill, that's right. So this is a federal government map. And but the locals around about this time started calling it Rib Mountain because of just how prominent it is. And it took about 50 years for them to convince the federal government that we produce a map, we call it Rib Mountain, okay? So it wasn't until 1948 that it actually became officially a mountain. One of the other things that interests me about this older map here is the river. Where's Lake Wausau? Right? So it's not there, it's just a single channel river back in 1899. So yeah, the locals called it Rib Mountain. This is in 1942, but it wasn't until the end of that decade that it officially became Rib Mountain. So there you go. So the state even called it Rib Mountain State Park, but it wasn't until 1948 it was officially called the mountain. There is a process, you can't just, you got to go through a process to convince the federal government that we really think this is a mountain and that's what we call it. By the way, look at Lake Wausau here. It's a very different river, right, than it was in 1899. How did Lake Wausau come into existence? What?
Yeah.
I was going to put the microphone to my ear so I could hear, but that's not going to work. All right, so what is it that created Lake Wausau? Well, it's down here in Rothschild, where we are. It's a dam, right? 1905, they constructed a dam here in Rothschild. They completely changed the river. You saw it was a single channel river in 1899. That's the way it was up until 1905. You can see the lower Eau Claire, big Eau Claire River here. That's also dammed up too. It's got a lake there, and you can see that this dam extends right up into Wausau and also into the lower part of the river as well. You know why people built a dam on the river? Generate power. It does. It generates power. Pardon? There's people there? Oh, paper. I'm sorry. The light's getting in my eyes. No, that doesn't work here. So, the paper mill. That's right. So we had the lumber industry in the Wisconsin Valley through the 1800s, but then as the timber started to run out, they started to look for other resources in the forest, and then they turned to wood resources that you could use for pulp and turn into paper. And so that was the beginning of the paper industry, and this dam here is to creates a consistent source of water for paper making. So there's a dam in Brokaw, and there's other dams further on down the river as well. So this was created for economic purposes, and then it also gives us recreation as well on the river, quite different than a straight river would be. Different fish species and different opportunities for recreation. Is it really a mountain? What do you think? Raise your hand if you think it's a mountain. What? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. One person here. All right, if you're talking about mountains and hills, one of the things you're talking about is relief, which is the height above the local terrain. So how tall is Rib Mountain above the local terrain? 1,000 feet? So that's what I mean by relief, okay? So it's not just necessarily what you're skiing down, which doesn't really go all the way to the bottom. You've got to go down onto basically highway in there. That's about 750 feet. All right. Now you can go to some countries, talk to some people, they'll say, no, if it's going to be a mountain, that has to be 1,000 feet. You go to some countries, they'll say it has to be 2,000 feet. In the US here, what we say is, you know what, it kind of depends on the local environment. If you took this mountain, or what you want to call it, and stuck it in the Rockies, or put it in the Cascade Mountains on the west coast, or the Sierra Nevadas in California, 750 feet would be a bump and a log, all right? Because you've got mountains there like Rainier that are 8,000 feet above the local landscape, right? Or Mount St. Helens, a few thousand feet above the local landscape. This would not be a mountain. But in Wisconsin, this is significant. It's 3 miles long, it's 750 feet high. And so what we do in the States is we say, you know what, it's a relative, not an absolute term. It's a mountain in the landscape of Wisconsin. So some countries would say, no, they'd say it's got to be 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet, but we accept it as a mountain. I'm very happy just accepting it as a mountain. Is it the highest point in Wisconsin? No, when I say highest point, I mean, I'm talking about elevation above sea level, okay? So is it the highest point in Wisconsin? Where does sea level end? Well, you put your canoe in the Wisconsin River here, and where does the Wisconsin River take you to? To the Mississippi. And then where does the Mississippi end? I don't know. It goes to the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, it's the Gulf, but it's still sea level. So everything is measured above sea level as a common, datum, as they call it, as a common base for all lands in the world. So actually, it's not that high above sea level. If you think about it, it's 1,000 miles from the Gulf of Mexico up here, and you're only going to rise up 1,940 feet. So the middle of the continent is very flat. Really. But that's the elevation above sea level, all right? And it says right there, Rib Mountain's highest point, 1,940 feet. It used to say Wisconsin's highest point, but it's not. What is the highest point above sea level in Wisconsin? Timms Hill, that's right. Tim was tiny, but anyway, Timms Hill is the highest point above sea level. But it's not a very spectacular hill. It's a glacial cave. It's made of sand and gravel that the glacier dropped onto the landscape. It's not a very spectacular hill at all, but it is higher than Rib Mountain above sea level, but it's only 424 feet above, around 25 feet above the local landscape. You can drive by Tim's Hill and not see it, all right, because it's just hidden behind the trees. You can't drive by Rib Mountain and not see it, right, because its relief is so much more. But this is the highest point above sea level. And that's because just in general in Wisconsin, as you go northward, the landscape generally rises up. So Timms Hill is up in here. It's kind of a little bump in a log. You certainly, it's nothing compared to Rib Mountain. But yes, it is the highest point above sea level in Wisconsin. So there's Timms Hill. It's about 50 miles away from Wausau. If you go into the observation tower at the top of Rib Mountain and look towards the northwest, you're not going to see Timms Hill. It's just sort of some bumps on the horizon. It's one of those little bumps somewhere in there. I don't think you'll see a Rib Mountain from Timms Hill either simply because of distance, but I think you can actually pick it out on the horizon. All right, what kind of mountain is Rib Mountain? Is that a question? Are there different types of mountains? Well, someone mentioned a type of mountain, a volcanic mountain, right? So there are different types of mountains. So that's a reasonable question. What kind of mountain is Rib Mountain? How was it formed? Have you heard of Monadnock? I'll give you one guess as to what the name of this mountain is. Mount Monadnock, thank you. Yes, right. So this is Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire, and it's actually about 2,000 feet above the local terrain, so it's actually a lot larger than Rib Mountain. But it is an isolated hill that stands above the local landscape. So it's become a generic term, a general term for a hill like Rib Mountain that stands above the landscape. But also it refers to a hill that has a very particular origin, all right? So here's a landscape, all right? Looking sideways on here, and here is Rib Mountain quartzite. You told me it was made of quartzite, right? So this is a Rib Mountain quartzite. It's a mass of rock that at one time was under the surface of the landscape, actually under the base of mountains that existed in this area. We also said that quartz is a very resistant mineral, right? You could stretch it chemically, you can put acid on it, it's not going to fizz and pop, it's not going to dissolve away. It's a very resistant rock compared to all of the other rocks around it, including the granite that's in this area too. Quartzite is much tougher than granite. So, did you study erosion? Yeah, so rivers, and also weathering, freezing and thawing, chemical action in the environment works on the surface, transforms material, and removes material from the landscape. But it doesn't remove everything equally. And so the quartzite that makes up Rib Mountain, being very tough, is basically a survivor. All right, it's tougher than the rocks that surround it, the granite and other rocks that surround it, and it's basically managed to stand upright as everything else has been removed away. That's a very particular origin for a mountain, right? And that's what a monadnock is. Now, let me just tell you this, okay? I can't tell you many people tell me this. They say, oh, Rib Mountain, that was pushed up. You ever heard that? No, not pushed up at all. It just sat there. It just sat there and did nothing. And everything else was removed around it. It was not pushed up. So monadnock is a very particular type of mountain. It's not like a volcanic mountain. All right? There are some mountains also that do get pushed up, but Rib Mountain is not one of them. So Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire also is resistant rock in the landscape, and it's also survived just as Rib Mountain has. So I guess you could say that's a Rib Mountain wrong. It is, to think of it as being pushed up, but it's not been pushed up. So on the left is Rib Mountain, the right is Mount Monadnock. Which leads me to another Rib Mountain wrong. Some people look at Rib Mountain. There's Rib Mountain right in a contour map. So the contours are showing you elevation above sea level, and they give you kind of a depiction of the shape of the landscape. Here's Mosinee Hill here, and Little Mosinee Hill. Like a saddle, you would sit there, I guess, if you were a giant or something. And then there's another hill over here, it's called Hardwood Hill. So next time you go to the top of Red Mountain and go to the top of the observation tower, look out to the southeast, you'll see Mosinee Hill, that's pretty obvious, but also look out to the southwest and you'll see Hardwood Hill. And guess what? What kind of hills are these? They're monadnocks too, all right? They're made of quartzite as well. So they're the same kind of origin. So Red Mountain in that sense is just a big example. It's not unique in this area. And then in the middle here is 9 Mile Swamp. So many of you have gone cross-country skiing in 9 Mile Swamp, or cross-country running, or walking in 9 Mile Trails. Well, it's a really nice, it's a very nice, some nice trails in there. So some people look at this ring of hills and they think, oh, this must be a crater. No, it's not, all right? We just said it's a monadnock. In fact, this is part of the landscape that has simply been worn away and reduced and left Red Mountain standing high. Some people look at it, what does this look like? This is the end of, we know it's rib-shaped, right? This is it from the west and the east. What does it look like? So, well, hey, April Fool's Day was this week, right? Yeah. Well, 20 years ago, a lifetime ago, City Pages published a front page on April Fool's and it said, Red Mountain, about to explode. And it had a picture of Red Mountain and I gotta tell you, I mean, it was a perfect April Fool's joke because I can't tell you how many people believe this. And kept telling me that Red Mountain is a volcano. But it's not. It's made of metamorphic rock called quartzite. It's not made of volcanic material. This is completely wrong. But it's something that some people also keep sort of telling me about the mountain. But we know that it's made of metamorphic rock quartzite. So the other wrong about Wisconsin, many have gone skiing there. Many have gone skiing there. Or snowboarding. All right, twice. All right, great. So, or two of you, sorry, I thought it was. So, what's the name of the ski hill called? Granite Peak. So that is, there's no granite on Red Mountain, all right? There's granite in the surrounding landscape. Granite's been important economically in Marathon County. It's quarried, it's used for building stone, it's exported from Marathon County. So the name of Granite Peak just kind of is in honor of that. But the Red Mountain itself, there's no granite at all whatsoever on Granite Peak, all right? They could call it Quartz Mountain, I suppose. I think there is a Quartz Mountain. Is there a Quartz Mountain somewhere for skiing in the Midwest? All right, let's look at the geologic history of Marathon County. Where are we on this map? Have you looked at geology maps? Some out there? Yes, no? We're in here, right? But you can see that we're in this sort of strange looking area here, all right? This is the oldest rock in Wisconsin. That's what we're on here. Actually, it's some of the oldest rock in the country. It's also some of the oldest rock in the continent. We are sitting here, we're built upon, walking on, driving on what we call the basement of the continent. So it's rock, this is it here, all right? This is the oldest rock in the continent. And the younger rocks that are mainly sedimentary rocks are much younger, and they've kind of been eroded away. And so, you know, it's like everything's been peeled off here, and then we're just sitting on top of this much older rock. Anyone been to the Grand Canyon? Anyone, you've seen pictures of the Grand Canyon? Yeah, you get this sort of layer cake of rocks there. But right at the bottom of it is the gorge, and that's the basement. This is kind of the same rocks that you find at the very bottom of the Grand Canyon, all right? And everything else on top of it is much, much younger. Except in Wisconsin, it's just that we go to the southern part of the state. So this is geologic time. Have you looked at the geologic time scale? That's a great time scale. I love the names of it too, you know. Do you like the names? Paleozoic, Paleozoos, old life, right? Mesozoic, middle life, Cenozoic, modern life. Right? Where do you get these names from anyway? Who makes them up? Well, geologists made them up. They made them up in the 1830s, 1840s, as they started to pull apart and figure out the history of the Earth. They needed to have labels for things, right? So they took bits and pieces of Greek or Latin words and they banged them together and they called them, Phanerozoic. Well, Phanerozoic, which means visible and obvious life, visible life. So the last 500 million years have been a period of life on Earth, and everything else, this is the basement. All right? That's the basement. The word geology is just the same word, right? Geologos is the study of the earth, right? Logos, the word, the study of the earth. I don't like this one on the right though, because it's really misleading. You get 500 million years here, and then you've got 4 billion years here. The basement is very deep in terms of time. All right? We know most about this because there's so much surviving rock that we can figure out. What's down here is like a train wreck, okay? It's tough to figure out. But actually, if you put a real scale here, if everything's on the same scale, this Precambrian, as it's called, is 4 billion years. It really is the longest period of geologic time. So you just have to be a little careful with the geologic time scale. The way it's usually depicted is it's not on an actual common scale. The basement, though, is, you build a house with a basement, right? It's foundational. It's the foundation of the building. Everything else is on top of that. That's true also of this part of geologic time. Water arrives here. The first crust forms. Plate tectonics grows the crust into the kind of continents that we have. Life evolves. Photosynthesis pumps oxygen into the waters of the ocean, then into the atmosphere. The ozone layer forms, protects us from ultraviolet light, and life can leave land, and then we can start to have vegetable and animal life on land. But this is foundational to all of the life, the Paleozoos, the Mesozoos, the Cenozoos that we have, and everything that follows. So don't overlook the basement. It's foundational, just like it is for a house. So here's the tough part. This is where most of our events, geological events, happen in Marathon County. 1.5 to 2 billion years ago. I have to show you this just to give you some perspective here. All right, so where we are. And then we do have an ice age right at the very end, and then we have some other rocks that I'll point to. All right, so here's a detailed geology map of Marathon County, and we are not going to go into all the details, but you do recognize some of the names, right? There's granite in there, right? There's gneiss, everybody likes that one. There's basalt, so there's some names here that you recognize, but it is also one of the most complicated areas in the state. And that's because I said it's the basement. It's like a train wreck. I mean, there's just so many things happen so far in the past here that you've really got to tease things out and pull them apart. So let's begin at the top here. Here's a rock in Marathon County. So as a geologist looking at rocks, you have to kind of think about sequences. So here's a rock in Marathon County. What's interesting about this rock? Is there does it have any feature that's interesting? Is it just flat? There's lines on it. How would you describe those lines? I can't hear you. Wavy, yes, they're what you call ripple marks, okay? They're the kind of mark. Anyone been to a beach? By the ocean? You ever seen ripples on the beach? So you get sand on the beach, right? Water moves back and forth on the beach and interacts with the sand grains, and they get moved around and it creates ripples. These are beach ripples. Geologists can study a particular form of ripples in their wavelength, and you can see whether they're beach ripples or whether they're river ripples. Okay, these are beach ripples. You know where I found this rock? at the top of Red Mountain. No, come on. That's amazing. Hang on a second here. It's a beach at the top of Red Mountain.
I've seen one of that.
Yes, there's one at the summit. You know, they have a big piece of rock that's got ripples on it.
Yep.
This one here is up by the quarry, and I think this is a terrific example. So, we have some problems here, folks. We have problems here. What's a beach doing at the top of Red Mountain? And it's not made of sand or sandstone, it's made of quartzite. And quartzite is metamorphosed sandstone, I get that, okay? And it's at the top of Red Mountain, and it's not horizontal, it's vertical. So, you had a beach that was horizontal, you got metamorphosed into quartzite, well, probably first into sandstone, then into quartzite, and then it got lifted up. Well, did it get lifted up, or was just the rest of the landscape removed from around it? But it could tilt it up vertically. But then there's something else you got to think about. Where do beaches come from? Water? The ocean? Where does the sand come from? Rocks? Comes from erosion on the continent, right? So the continent's eroded, rivers bring the sand down to the ocean, and then ocean currents redistribute it, and you get those, maybe you go to the beaches on the Gulf, maybe one or two of you have been there in Florida or California, right? So the sand here must originally have come from a continent. This beach must have existed on a continent. So where did that continent come from, and when was that continent? It's like going down a rabbit hole here. I mean, it's like, where do you end, right? In terms of a chain, a continent, erosion, a beach, and something else happens, and the beach is transformed into much more solid rock, and then it's lifted up, and then it's revealed here in Marathon County. That's what's absolutely fantastic about this rock. I was really excited to find it. I knew it existed. So if you look in detail, this is a quartzite. It's very glassy rock, and it's made of quartz. It's very pure quartz in this quartzite. It's a very tough rock. So that's why it survived. You can't scratch this. You have a hard time. Chemically, it's not going to react with anything. So just this rock itself, I think, it poses a lot of questions about geologic time, how far back you go, how much time does it take. And it is what I said at the beginning too. It's like rocks tell us about the past. So maybe that continent was these rocks here. These are the oldest rocks in Marathon County. They're nice. You know what that mean? You heard that name before? Yeah, it's a German word, not a Greek word. But you can see Proterozoic here. Prototype, very early life indeed at that time. And this is what that kind of rock would look like. This is from the Marshfield area. It's very old. It's really contorted. You can see bands within it, contorted within it. This is the kind of continental rock that erosion maybe gave us the beach that eventually came to be at the top of Red Mountain. What would that continent look like? Have you talked about Pangaea? That's nothing. That's just the last 200 million, 150 million years. Where did Pangaea come from? What was Pangaea? A supercontinent, is that right? And then it split up 150 million years ago? It's like what happened to the Earth 150 million years ago? Did something decide to split up or something? The continents have been moving around constantly once they first formed at the surface. Kind of the scum of the earth, right? They formed on the surface. They've been moving around constantly. There's been continents that have formed, broken up. There's been more than one Pangaea in Earth's history. And so, in Marathon County here, we are going back even to continents that existed before the present continents, before Pangaea, to continents even, maybe 2 times, 3 times before Pangaea. You get dizzy thinking about it? You get vertigo just thinking about this? You want to see a little animation here? Yeah, that's the right answer. You've got to be fast. Wait, where are the continents here, by the way? This is 700 million years ago, so this isn't even going back to the time of the continents here that gave us Red Mountain. Can you see any continents here? All right, well, let's just see what we can see. Any sense there, 500 million years ago? What's this? What's this? North America. What's this? Well, if that's South America, it's upside down. Let's move it forward a little bit. Oh, hey, South America. Looks like North. Oh, this looks like the whole West Coast here, right? The mountains in the West Coast. Oh, this is Europe, right? And we still don't have Russia, or we've got Russia, we don't have Siberia, and we don't see China. Let's see. Oh, this is starting to make a little bit of sense, right? Oh, I went too far, didn't I? I formed Pangea, and then I split it up, right? Well, 60 million, sorry, I went too far. I don't know if I can go back and say. There you go, right? There's Pangea. Africa is right in here. Australia's here. And India is down here. You ready? Watch India. India's very exciting. Watch India just go boom right into Asia. You ready? Bang! Alright? So, when I'm talking about continents here, I'm even going before 700 million years. I'm going into continents and supercontinents that pre-existed all of this. So when you see Pangea, you have to ask yourself, like, was the Earth just sitting there until 150 million years ago with one big continent, and then decided, no, I've had enough of this, and Pangea suddenly split up? No, the kind of processes that split up Pangea, plate tectonics, have been going on for a very long time. A very long time. There's no reason it would suddenly stop and suddenly start again. So continents have been swept up in this kind of ballet, I guess you might say, for a long time. All right, let's take a look at some more rocks here. Basalt. This is great. Basalt. What is kind of a rock is basalt? Do you say basalt or basalt? Basalt. Okay, I'll go with you. What was it, basalt? All right, what kind of rock is basalt? Oh, what did you say? Oh, I wasn't accusing you of saying something. I thought I had someone say ocean there. Did someone say ocean? Now you get basalt is a lava, okay? You find it on continents. The whole central core of India is basalt. Big parts of Siberia are basalt, but also the ocean crust, which is 2/3 of the Earth, is basalt. Right? It's ancient ocean crust, and peculiarly, you know, as the ocean crust erupts at mid-ocean ridges, as it comes up, it hits the seawater, it crusts over, and then it punches up in behind the crust, and it creates these kind of what they call pillars. So the ocean crust is not just basalt, it's also got a particular form. And look what I found in Marathon County. I found ocean crust. Hey, we said the beach that was there at the top of Red Mountain, it was a beach. It had to be on the edge of an ocean. The basalt in Marathon County is ocean crust. And so it's actually black, but my camera picked up some minerals in there that are reflecting the blue end of the spectrum, and so it turned out kind of blue here, which is good because I think it emphasized, you know, some structure within the rock, and so you can see the pillars here in the rock. So this is up on Highway A by Little Chicago, if you know where I am there. So we're just north and west of also here on a country road. So sometimes you see those walls of basalt there. If you get out and look carefully, you can see things in the basalt that will also tell you where that basalt originates. So we got some problems here. We got a beach at the top of a mountain. We've got ocean crust that we somehow have to explain. And I think plate tectonics is what does it, right? Forming a supercontinent before Pangea, even before Pangea. So, you recognize this? You call it subduction zone, is that right? So, here the beach is getting scrunched here. The sandstone is going to get turned into quartzite and turned up vertically here. We should find also evidence of volcanoes in Marathon County, right? Because here's our ocean crust, but we should find evidence of volcanoes. Well, there's lots of granite, which is not volcanic, but it's intrusive rock, and that's the source of volcanoes. Lots of granite in Marathon County, right? Apart from Granite Peak, which doesn't have any. All right, but this granite here, from north of Wausau on the east and west side of the river, this granite here is really kind of famous, Wausau red granite. So you find it in tombstones. You also find it, you find it in buildings like the Grand Theatre downtown, maybe countertops, and it's also exported. It's a very famous rock also in North America for construction. This one here is another granite, and that's found in 9 Mile. It's what underlies 9 Mile Swamp. So we have lots of evidence of igneous activity in Marathon County. There's a quarry for the granite just north of Wausau. There's a couple of big quarries up there. So they're quarrying into this mass of granite north of Wausau. I think we should find some volcanic rocks, eh? Well, volcanoes put out ash, and that forms layers. This is 6th Street as you go north towards Brokaw on the east side of the river. This is a lava just north of Tom Field. You can see, it's not a big piece, I'm sorry, but you can see some of the lines within it, flow lines within it. This is quartz, so darker specks there of quartz. So we do have evidence of lava on the surface as well, rhyolites. We also have evidence of fragments of coarser material that rain down on the landscape. And we also have evidence of mud flows. Because the other thing you have to remember, when all this is happening, it's a weird environment. There is no life. The landscape has no vegetation. When it rains, oh my goodness, there must be fantastic amounts of erosion taking place. All the ash that the volcano puts out is just going to get swept away. You're going to have rivers that are are flowing like cement in the landscape. It's a very different landscape. You can't think of it as being anything like the landscape that we live in today. So Rib Mountain Rock, I'm going to take a cross section here through Rib Mountain. We've also sort of indicated some of the volcanoes that might have existed in the landscape. There's quartzite there sitting in the subsurface. Remember, a beach has been flipped up. Right? So the rock might be almost 2 billion years old, but the mountain, remember, the mountain itself is of a different age. All right? We can't really say what age that is. But there's plenty of time. Believe me, there is plenty of time to work those mountains away. Well, volcanoes are not that tough, actually. They're not that tough. Unless they continuously build up, unless there's eruptions every 100, 200 years, they're not very tough in terms of rocks. So there's a mountain, right? Right there. As a, what do we call it? What kind of mountain do we call it? Monadnock. Thank you. So even the Monadnock itself has signs of weathering on it. If you go up to the top and look over the south overlook, you can see these remnants of quartzite. Even the quartzite itself is getting sort of weathered away. It doesn't last forever. Right? These are called tors. These sort of mounds of rock. There's also a big tor at the top of the hill, right? The top of the mountain, where the rocks seem to be kind of piled on top of each other. It's just that material's been removed. And then I kind of like if you go to the south overlook. I shouldn't really say this, but they got to cut the trees down so you can see something from that overlook. But anyway, if you go to the south overlook, you can see boulders here. They're tumbling down the face of the mountain, the south face. This is called Felsenmeer. It just means the German word. It just means a sea of boulders. Is all it means. People got to make up words, right, to describe things. You've got to adopt them. And then I'll finish with some very much younger rocks in Marathon County here at the Cambrian. All right. So there are some much younger rocks in Marathon County. Down here in Highway C, in the southeastern part of the county, is sandstone. And there's a quarry down there, Krokowski Stone Quarry, that is world famous. All right, world famous. I always think this is kind of funny because here we are. We start at the top of a mountain with a beach that the sand was an absolute distant past, 2 billion years ago. And if we come up to the Cambrian about 500 million years ago, guess what? There's another beach in the rocks. Although this one is still horizontal. So you always go to two different ends of geologic time here in Marathon County. So you should go up to top of the mountain and look at the sandstone there and go to Krokowski. And what do you see on this sandstone? Ripples, of course, right? But you also see these other kind of features here. And these have been interpreted to be marks made in the sandstone by jellyfish. They're not fossil jellyfish because they didn't survive, but these are the marks made in the sandstone by jellyfish. So there's no life at the time of the mountain quartzite or the sandstone that preceded that, but there was here. And we have evidence of that in this quarry. Right? We also have tracks of creatures moving around. This would be in the beach environment, just like on the beach itself, or maybe even just below. No, it'd have to be on the beach itself, because I think wave action is just ridiculous. But we have tracks, and you can see some creature moved across the landscape here and created a pretty deep track, and then another one came across this way and created a track over the top of that one, right? And then we also find some fish fossils, and you find some other creatures that we're not totally able to understand and interpret yet. So that was certainly during the time of Pangaea, okay? When Pangaea existed and an ocean extended up through the middle of the continent. And then subsequently, as you know, Pangaea split up and created the oceans that we have today. So I'm not going to do the Ice Age, which is also very exciting, but that only happened 10 minutes ago. Geologic time. So I'm going to stop there. I'm almost on time yet. 45 seconds. 45 seconds. For questions. Anyone get any questions? All right. Well, thanks. Got some handbags.
To the main office.
Alright, we'll do this thing. Let's do. Alright, my classes, Hanish over here, Peterson over here. Hanish over here, Peterson over here. And then a hand on this side. Not good. here. Peterson over here. Minahan on this side. Anywhere over here. Peterson, Hamish over here, Peterson over here, Minahan over these. Hamish over here, Peterson, and then Hamish over here, Peterson there, Hamish over here, Peterson over here, Minahan's that split. Hamish here, over here. Hamish's class over here, excuse me, Peterson over here, Minahan over here. Jimmy's class over here.
I heard like a crack. No way. I don't want to know. I'm gonna say it.
Thank you.